Traders are performance athletes. Absolutely. And to take it a step forward, our feedback loop is more intense than anything. When are the frequencies, the duration, the immediate hits on the nervous system happen anywhere else? That feedback loop is so intense. That's why it makes this career so challenging. My goal always is to be uncomfortable in the uncertainty and confident in your behavior. Bang. How am I sitting? Like, how am I breathing? And this goes back to perform like an Olympian or train like an Olympian or whatever the title may be. It's the same thing. Your diaphragm's crunched. Everything's crunched. How you open up? It all counts. But when we're able to slow down and understand that when I'm euphoric, I don't make the best decisions. When I'm panicked, I don't make the best decision. So how do I understand the game of impulsivity? Right? Because everybody wants to talk about intuition always. But I always say, if you master the game of impulsivity, the water gets calmer, you're able to make better decisions and actually tap into it.
Welcome to the Alpha Man podcast, hosted by Stephen Goldstein and Mark Randall. We are delighted to be sponsored by the esteemed Society of Technical Analysts, the STA, a not-for-profit body which explores and educates people on all aspects of price action in the markets. We are also delighted to be promoting their brilliant home study course, which is based on their diploma program, which has been delivered at some of the world's top universities. You can find out about obtaining a discount on this home study course by going to our website alpha-mind.net and scrolling down to the section on the Society of Technical Analysts. There you will find all details about how you can obtain a discount on the price of this brilliant learning program. Now on with this week's podcast.
Well, welcome to this week's Alpha Mind podcast. We're delighted to have Evan Marks with us, a New Yorker through and through. Evan, in the market for nearly 25 years as a trader, then by the look of it, shifted from retirement into being formerly a performance coach, very much focused around the mental game, and a lot of overlap with the things that Steve and I have talked about, and of course with Mark's experience. I guess that brings that validity to the conversation. Welcome to the show, Evan, but I want to start off with a question, and then you can give us a bit more about your background. I want to know, when you shifted from like trader mode to formally being a performance coach, what's the why behind that? Why did you shift? Was it always there inside you to want to give back and train? Or what inspired you to go into the coaching world rather than just to go to the shores of Greenwich and just chill out all the rest of your life?
Well, first, Steve and Mark, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Well, first of all, once a trader, always a trader. So let's just start there. All right. I live in the risk world, and that's where I thrive. So it's in my DNA, and it's just who I am as a person. But it's interesting. I went to undergraduate school, University of Pennsylvania, which is just an incubator for Wall Street. It just throws, it seems like it's the farm leagues. But I always wanted to coach and teach. Always. The most profound effect of my life were from coaches growing up. But it just so happened that my identical twin brother got recruited by a guy named Steve Cohen. At that point, it was SEC Capital. And my brother's like, Ev, you got to check this out. This is amazing. We didn't know what Wall Street was. We had no idea. We were lacrosse players, athletes. He's like, you got to see what's going on here. And I got thrown into Wall Street. 25 years, a little under 25 years. It was awesome. It was an incredible experience. But there was always this nagging thing. Like, I don't want to do this. I want to coach. And it just so happened when I was 46 and top of my game, I had the opportunity from a coach who's been on your show, Denise Shull, who coached me. I was a client of hers. I have the opportunity to work with her. But let me roll back a little bit. I did actually I thought I had a heart attack at 46. So this kind of sped up the process a bit. And what it was actually a massive panic attack. But the years and years of chronic stress, even though I thought I was handling it better than most, I wasn't. And it really took a toll on me. I had an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. I saw a neurologist the next day. He's like, listen, your brain is fried. You have a choice. You can continue what you're doing and suffer the consequences, or you can go coach and teach. I go coach and teach. That ship has sailed. And it just so happened a couple weeks later, I had the opportunity. And I literally, Mark and Steve, retired, sold my stake in my fund, went back to school, and within 6 months, I'm sitting in the pits with Hendrick Motorsports coaching Jimmy Johnson and his pit crew team. And I can say now, without a question, without a doubt, this is the most fun I've ever had. It's a slightly less stressful, but it's one of those things that I always wanted to do. This was in my DNA. And when I had the opportunity, I took it and I ran with it. You know, not many 46-year-olds are going back to school for psychoanalytical theory and neuroscience. I was a sponge. And to me, the greatest thing ever is giving and serving others. It's changed my life. I know maybe I veered off the question a little bit, but that's how I got into this. And I understand the importance of mental capital. I knew what financial capital was, but mental capital, traders, C-suite executives, anybody, athletes, has to be protected, but it also has to be strengthened and leveraged. So doing what I do now, in my eyes, is an incredible gift. And I'm extremely appreciative and grateful that I get to do this. So there's a little something about me.
Wow, no, thanks for that. I think Steve and I probably agree with you that that's sort of why we're here too. It's having I guess an appropriate exit, from the city world, but still keeping relevant with markets, still being in touch with the same crowd, the same people, but through a slightly different lens. It's difficult to shake off the how city stuff grabs you, how markets grab you, and there's a certain culture. But the need to give back because we know it's dangerous. We know there's a cumulative impact of unmanaged stress, of unmanaged letting go. The fact that people are just building up this frustration that turns into it's almost a mental disease in itself. And I think that knowing that you're as good today as in terms of how you managed yourself yesterday in terms of markets. And if you're not managing yourself yesterday, then you're coming in today with a whole baggage of negative sort of traits and behavior that just turns into suboptimal performance. Yeah, so
it's real performance, though, right? When you think about it, Mark, right?
Yeah.
Like this is traders are performance athletes.
Absolutely.
And to take it a step forward, our feedback loop as traders, as I'm a trader still. This is just how I think, is more intense than anything. When are the frequencies, the duration, the immediate hits on the nervous system happen anywhere else? That feedback loop is so intense. That's why it makes this career so challenging. However, we know now through neuroscience and psychoanalytical theory that we actually have the ability to get better. We have the ability to slow down in order to speed up. We have the ability to downregulate. We have the ability to make better decisions. We don't know if it's the right decision, but better decisions. But we have this. When I started, it was just get bigger, use more money, and good luck. Emotions, throw them in the garbage. It doesn't matter. It's just ice. But now we know that emotions provide data. We consciously can choose our behavior to create new experiences. And we do that more times than that. And they call it flow. But we have the ability to become unconsciously conscious if we repeat what we need to do. To me, it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I think I listened to one of your posts on LinkedIn where you talked about confidence coming from consistency, and how that in terms of performance was was a critical attribute as well. And perhaps if we look at the world of trading, how do you think that translates into behavior in terms of trading? Just keep on doing it, modify, learn, adjust.
Well, this whole thing, right? It's acknowledge, give yourself mental space, understand your behavior, right? It's for a trader, reacting is not a great thing, but being proactive doesn't mean you're just sitting there doing nothing. But having the ability to read your emotions, first of all, it's visceral, right? Your heart, your lungs. They say great traders can feel their hearts. That's the first sign. But when we're able to slow down and understand that when I'm euphoric, I don't make the best decisions. When I'm panicked, I don't make the best decisions. So how do I understand the game of impulsivity? Right? Because everybody wants to talk about intuition always. But I always say, if you master the game of impulsivity, the water gets calmer. You're able to make better decisions and actually tap into intuition. Right? Because we're impulsive. The reason we're impulsive is that our brain is predicting into the future, but the predictions are from the past experiences. So now we're caught in this vicious loop of it's not even trading anymore, right? It's validation, it's childhood, it's all these things. So if we give ourselves a chance to give ourselves mental space to just breathe for a second, to not react, imagine how much better you'll be.
Yeah, we have these 3 C's just in our world of calmness, clarity, and control.
Absolutely. I love that, actually.
Yeah, really.
I had to steal that.
Yeah. And the concept of, was it reset, refresh? What's the third R, Stevie? Come on, wake up. Reset, refresh, recalibrate.
Reset, refresh. Well, rebalance.
And rebalance.
Yeah.
So the C's and the R's, that sort of equation of calmness, clarity, and control allows that ability of reflection, of if you're going to get to a flow state, you need calmness, clarity, and control as a foundation.
Right, and you need evidence.
Yeah.
Right, that you can do this, right? And that's repetition and practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in there? Because, until you called me in there, Mark, I got into a little bit of, I'm just enjoying listening to this. I almost forgot I was part of this podcast for a second, because I'm like ferociously making notes on what you're saying, because there is so much that I resonate with deeply from, almost identical journeys. I didn't quite have the panic attack, but I did have a point after 25 years of being a trader where I thought, I was looking actually to get back into it after some of the traumas of the global financial crisis that created situations where the company I was working was pulling out of prop trading, and I had to go and find a new prop trading role somewhere. And I was looking for that out there at that point. I had certain job offers that I didn't really want. And I was weighing up career directions. And then my old coach, a bit like your old coach, sort of put that seed in my head of becoming a coach. And it's something which I'd always loved the idea of. And then there was a second side to it, which was, I don't know if I need this shit anymore. I do love this job. Don't get me wrong. I do love trading. It's the ultimate challenge and the ultimate puzzle, but it's the ultimate head fuck as well. And you're right. A lot of my clients talk to me about having what I would describe as almost weekly or monthly existential crisis from this job. Just that emotional impact and getting taken down every now and then by the market, getting shrank by the market and thinking you're not good enough and you're not up to this. And, you're just cutting a ridiculous figure every now and then because, you've just, I don't know, you've got in too early, you've got in too late, you've missed something you've been calling about, or you've done something which is completely against what you said you would do. All these things that the market sucks you in and chews you out. Okay. And something resonated with me, which, quick plug for my book. I featured in my book, okay, which was published earlier this year, which Denise Scholl very kindly sort of gave a short review to, which is inside the front cover. But one of the central themes of the book, and one of the central concepts of my coaching, it sounds like it's a central concept of yours, and I know it's a central concept of Mark's, is that trading is a performance activity. That's what it is. It's got far more in common with being a professional golfer or professional athlete or professional tennis player or a boxer, which is an analogy I like to make often, than it does with being an economist or an accountant or an analyst. The analytical side of the job is key. It's a tool, but that's what it is. It's a tool. It's the taking risks, the making decisions, the managing yourself. That is far more important and impactful on how you're going to actually get results in the long run, how you can monetize that analysis over time that you do, or the ideas you get, really comes down to you. There's a lot of people out there who make the most brilliant calls who just are not able to monetize them because they don't have that, what is developed risk-taking ability, or they've not developed their personal risk management, or they've not done the self-awareness stuff around how they are when they run risks. They don't develop that. That was a big blind spot in my own trading for a big part of my career, that I was perhaps more of an analyst than a risk taker. And it was only when I became a risk taker in my head and in my soul that I really started to make decent money. And I talk about that with so many traders and people in PM roles, in hedge fund roles, who are, I see going through that same process of the analysis is everything when it's part of the job, but it's not the job.
Well, when you talk about analysis, right, we're trying to make something certain that's not certain, right? My goal always is to be uncomfortable in the uncertainty and confident in your behavior. Bang. I've got to jump in because you've just reminded me of a conversation I had with a CEO of a fund earlier this year. And he was asking me questions about, why did I become a coach? And, what was my trading career like? And what was the big change in your own career? And I guess like you work with Denise, my coach, Peter Burdett, had a phenomenal impact on who I was and how I engaged with risk. And that's when I went through this transition from analyst who took risks to risk taker who used analysis. Okay. And that's when things started to change. And that's when I started to consistently make money. Okay. At a lot higher level. But I also, and I'm holding my heart as I talk here, people can't see this because this cuts to my core. Okay. What the CEO asked me was, after that period when you became more of a risk taker, was it less stressful for you or more stressful for you? And I said, far more stressful. And I never got that because I was more successful, but I was more stressed. And at that point, I've always in my life tried to square that circle. And the CEO said to me, well, it's not rocket science. You engage with uncertainty to a far higher degree. And there is no part of that is not stressful. And there is no one that is not stressed out by that experience of engaging with heightened levels of uncertainty. And for me, up till then, I think I was always trying to do something that avoided me engaging fully with uncertainty, looking for the perfect trade, the perfect analysis setup. Well, it's interesting you just said something I thought really resonated with me. When we're doing analysis, right, there's a concept of procrastination is not the lack of effort. It's actually the fear of a future feeling.
Yeah.
So the anticipation of taking risk can be extremely stressful. But the more work you do on yourself, the action of taking risk is not as stressful, right? And that's conditioning, right? Anticipation of the brain is predicting, okay, if this doesn't go well, this is going to happen. Then this is going to happen. Then I'm going to lose my house. I may lose my family. You can go down this fractal rabbit hole so fast. You haven't even done anything. right? Remember, dopamine isn't the actual reward. It's the anticipation of. So when we discuss risk, the anticipation of taking risk, of what could happen, is far greater than the actual event itself, which is fascinating, isn't it? Because this is so survival based. Like, there is not a saber-toothed tiger coming down if you're buying AMD. There's not going to happen. I know you're not going to die, right? But to me, it is so fascinating that the impact on your nervous system could feel that way, right? Intellectually, we know it's bullshit, right? AMD's not eating you. S&Ps aren't eating you. Crude's not eating you. But to have that impact, to me, is phenomenal. Then we think, wait a second, this is true, right? I know I'm not going to die, but it feels this way. So this is true. There's got to be something going on internally that I actually can get better at. To me, it's mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Like, yes, we can get better. Acknowledgement, verbalization, mental pauses, asking exploratory questions, building new experiences again and again, building new neural pathways in the brain, neuroplasticity. Through repetition, that becomes the edge. I used to tell my assistant, I said, I'll sit at any table with anybody because I know my mental game is stronger than everybody's. I don't care what it is. I'm like, I'll trade gummy bears necessary, but I know that nobody's doing the work I'm doing. Nobody is doing this craziness that I think I'm getting myself involved in. I want in. Right? So then we know it's almost like the three of us have the same trade. I get smoked. You guys all make money. It's the same exact trade. What the fuck happened? I'll tell you what happened. My past happened. Repeated behaviors happened. Fear of happened. But I did the same thing I always did, right? Stay in that vicious cycle. The mental side of managing money / trading has to be the first chapter in your playbook. Period. The end. And we all can get better. It's true. I mean, it's true. It is. I mean, I've done this too long to know. I've been in too many bad situations to know that this is true.
We're going to go back to the podcast in a second. Just first, we want to tell you about a new initiative we are doing with the Society of Technical Analysts. Alpha Mind will be delivering our first high-performance trader learning program, and it's going to be delivered by myself and Mark Randall next year, starting in March 2025. This program is based on over a decade of successful performance, coaching programs and workshops delivered by us at some of the world's leading hedge funds, some of the world's top investment banks, and several of the world's top energy and commodity trading firms, as well as to serious-minded professional traders, including several who featured in Jack Swager's most recent Market Wizards book. You can find out about this program by going onto the Society of Technical Analysts website at the link technicalanalysts.com and then going to their education page. As we said, this is a 10-week program delivered on Mondays, UK time, between 6 and 8 p.m. It's going to be delivered live over Zoom. Enrollment is limited to just 25 participants. Now back to this week's podcast.
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear you say that. I think this concept of fight and flight being triggered by an expectation of something that's about to happen, I think gets all over every piece of data coming out. You know, that positioning and being scared. I mean, literally scared. Sometimes to the point where you can't even create the action of trade because you've freaked yourself out. Trading is such a sort of nanosecond. You know, the edge is there for a moment. And if you're lost in time travel, negative generally, going backward or forward, your present sort of conditioning to actually do something there and then is compromised. You know, you become the lag, right? You look at systems for lag, but you are the lag. You know, so how do you get around that, I know that you mentioned several times about being conscious, conscious to the presence. And I think consciousness and obviously emotional awareness is something that I think you play quite hard on in terms of, your some of your forte and work has gone into that area. And I want to just dip into consciousness, because we've talked about, okay, not being present and this negative drift and the impact that has on performance, like it's disastrous. But being present and being conscious, you talked about mental breaks a second ago as part of that strategy, but let's dip a bit deeper into being conscious, and perhaps you can share some of your own, I guess, life sort of stories of
Absolutely.
what being conscious means. And if you haven't, and if you're not conscious, how do you know you're not conscious? And perhaps how do you break out of that into becoming more conscious to being in the game?
My goal always as a coach is to bring the unconscious conscious and to listen to what people are not saying, right? We're in the game of emotional patterns. Why are we doing what we're doing and repeating the same thing that no longer serves us, right? Even though we think it is, which is unconscious, it's not. But for me, Mark, it's a great question. I went to the University of Pennsylvania. I was a lacrosse player. I got recruited to play lacrosse, which is big in the Northeast. I was a student athlete. I blew my knees out twice at Penn. An identical twin brother went to become captain, and my career was over within 7 games. So here I am. I'm a student athlete. My world is shattered. I can't tell anybody because it looks like weakness. But then I have another arena to go, which is trading. I spent 10 years struggling, trying to validate myself. It wasn't even about the money. I was better than everybody else. I lived in this vicious loop for so long. And fortunately, I didn't destroy myself. It was vicious. I wasn't trading. I was validating myself. I wanted to tell everybody that I could have been this great lacrosse player. I didn't have the opportunity, but I want to show everybody else what I'm about now. And that past experience almost crippled me. So then I met this guy. He's like, I think you have a couple issues. I go, I agree with you. I was doing this so unconsciously, right, and expecting a different result, right? I was just literally ruining myself. And finally, we talk about resistance in the past. I couldn't even go there. But once I started verbalizing what was going on, and it was extremely intimate and extremely painful, I got to see, wait a second, I am not acting consciously. I am repeating these past behaviors continuously. In that moment, that's when I just went into the deep dive of neuroscience and psychoanalytical theory. I said, this is not working for me any longer. I need to become more conscious, one, to acknowledge how I feel, ashamed, embarrassment, inadequacy, loser, all these things, these perceived negative emotions. I need to start tying new behaviors to these emotions to create new experiences, because that is not who I am. And when I became more conscious, all right, I've slowed down. What are you trying to accomplish? What do we need to do? How am I feeling and why? Okay. Then it started to shift. It's even, want to hear something silly, Mark and Steve? If you're trying to lose weight and all of a sudden you pick up a Snickers bar and you're holding this thing and you put it down and say, I'm not going to eat that right now. That's consciousness. You made a decision as opposed to being unconscious and just eating it. Don't think that that's not inconsequential, because it's not. These little behaviors I started to change, started to help me. And it became like this megaphone, right? When things compound, 2 and 2 is 4 means nothing. 4 and 4, 8, whatever. 8 and 8, so what? But as you start to move, all that work you're doing, all that consciousness, all that intentionality really starts to fucking build. And now all this little cuds and doing starts to look like something. It's literally I call it aggressive patience. It's really the ability to stay in that pocket just a little longer. Having your footing right being conscious of what you need to do. This is, by the way, this is not void of feelings. There's no such thing as fearlessness. That's total bullshit. Everybody has fear. The question is, what do you do with these perceived negative emotions, and how do we use them now to help us? Because we know fear of loss, fear of missing out carries intensity. So how do I transfer that intensity into conscious behavior, which I form another new experience, and I repeatedly do that. This is not a game of being perfect with behavior, but it is sure as hell of a game of being precise on what we want to do. How empowering is that? We all have it. Nobody's fucking perfect, but we have an opportunity to get better. All of us. It's amazing. We know it now. There's so much research out there. It's mind-blowing to me. Sleeping right, eating right, exercising right, priming yourself right. You don't think that's connected to trading? 100% it is. Self-worth. You don't think that's connected to trading? Of course it is. All these things are important. That's what we said in the beginning of this conversation. It's a performance game. Treat it like that. I went on a tangent there, gentlemen. Apologies, but I love this stuff.
That's what the podcast's all about. I mean, you're in your flow, which is brilliant. But I guess
I'm going to interrupt you there.
Interrupt.
I'm talking to the audience now. I want you to just rewind what Evan said.
Exactly.
Because you need to take that in. Okay? That is far more important than your head and shoulders pattern or your data that hits your screens in the next couple of days, or your research report that you got sitting on the desk, right? Everyone else sees the same price action. Everyone else has the same data. Everyone else in your market is seeing those same research reports. What everyone else is also doing is not playing the mental game, not trying to win it. And that is your edge. And I bet you, Evan, the people you work with who are different to everyone else, who are special, who are succeeding, are doing that because they damn sure are doing it amongst my clients. The people who are better than anyone else, the people who are exceptional, they are doing that shit. And for the first 13 years of my trading career, even though I read whatever book there was on psychology, even then I wasn't doing that. It was as if I was reading what you need to do, but I wasn't doing it.
You know, it's interesting, Steve. You can't be interested in this. You got to be fucking committed to this.
You got to be
interest is nothing. Commitment's everything.
Yeah.
That's anything, I think. I don't, when I talk to athletes, CEOs, I'm interested in butterflies too, whatever.
I was the guy going into the shop and going, no, you mustn't eat Snickers bars, and then sneaking off and eating a Snickers bar every time I walked past one. Because I didn't have that in me to control it, even though I knew how damn important that was. So as I say, rewind this podcast as of now and go back and listen to what Evan was saying there. Mark, you want to say something?
It's never easy, this game.
No.
But I will say this, it can be easier. If you really embrace what this podcast is about and what you guys do and what I do for a living, it's a commitment. It's a challenging profession. But you better believe that this is a mental game. 100%, right? Theory of mind. This is literally, trading feels like just a social experiment. It really is. I know we have a lot more algorithms now than when I was trading a while ago, but it's still a social game. And why are the same guys winning? Right? I know information's different, all this stuff, but my clients are phenomenal. They're in all different aspects of this game. These guys are mental beasts, and they know the importance. They know the edge, and they know the commitment that it takes to be exceptional at this game. Now, if you don't want to be exceptional, you do what you want to do and care less. But if you want to play and be good at this, don't even think for a second you can't play in this arena without a strong mental foundation. And if you do, you think you can, I'll trade against you.
I know that we had that brief diversion and the extra color there that came out, but it all starts with being honest with yourself, doesn't it? And actually, and being vulnerable. Absolutely. And being willing to be vulnerable. And then being bothered. We have this phrase in England, you can talk about these things forever. You can read every book on the planet. You can come up with a plan. But if you don't execute it because you can't be bothered, you don't want to put the time in, it doesn't happen. And there's a lot of people out there, 95% of the people that are not making money in trading probably just can't be bothered with the stuff they need to pay attention to. Maybe because they've not actually found an equation that works for them, which obviously we're all coaches and we can provide the link to sort of understanding what that equation might look like from an individual basis, once we understand the individual themselves. But a lot of people don't find that. But those that find it find a superpower.
Yeah. Mark, I agree with you also, because it's important to go, where are you starting from? Don't think that your childhood hasn't affected your behavior today. It has. Right? How we think about risk, how we think about responsibility. Do I deserve to win? Do I deserve success? It sounds crazy, but there's truth to this. Steve?
Something you said, Mark, and that you were leading to, Evan, which I wanted to allude to. And as I do say this, I do apologize to Denise, because this may have come from her initially, okay, if she's listening. But there was a line in the show Billions, okay, where Wendy Rhodes was, and I mentioned this in my book, another plug, by the way. But there was a line.
Keep plugging.
Wendy Rose is giving a talk to an audience of hedge fund portfolio managers. And in that talk, she tells them that in their minds, the thought that someone might know you need help is worse than not getting the help you need. And when I heard that quote, when I was watching it, I hit pause and I thought, who writes this stuff? Because how do they know that? And I had to rewind that quote and play it again several times, because I just thought, that is so spot on, and I do ask this question at you because I know it's a question that me and Mark bang our heads with over the years, which is, why don't people so readily come to coaching? Why do you have to sometimes sell it and market it? Every one of those people out there should be saying, I need a coach now. I want to get ahead. But and people have heard me talk about this before, and I'm going to just then flip this the other way. I was one of those guys who, when coaching was offered to me, right, and despite it being offered to me, because out of about 200 traders in the trading room where I worked, I was probably the one most likely to say yes to it. That's why the people came to me and offered it to me internally in the bank I worked at, in the trading firm I worked at. It was being offered as an experiment, and I just pushed back on it and went exactly like Wendy Rose said there. I don't need coaching. There's nothing wrong with me. I've got it's like my ego came out, immediately went into sort of protection and defense mode, and was like, screw you, I've been doing this job for 13 years. Why are you offering me coaching? Do you not think I'm good enough? So I get it from the other side. But the more you can help people understand that this is a performance activity, and I was at that point in my career, even though I'd been on the prop desk at Credit Suisse, I was going backwards. I was coming to a point in my career where if I didn't turn things around, my career was going to be curtailed quite soon. I probably wasn't aware of that. In fact, maybe unconsciously I was. And yet I still said no to the coaching. And yet it was when my arm was twisted and I eventually decided to give it a go that everything changed in my career. And I became, hands up, for the first time, a consistently good trader rather than someone who was just getting by. And but that hesitation is a big part of this, because we don't think it's a performance activity. People in it don't see it as that. They think it's something intellectual and they should succeed on their own. What are your thoughts about that?
They say ignorance is bliss, right? But when you're not in denial and you can't do anything to change it, is the worst. But also the fear of judgment and the fear of a spotlight on something that you know is off. And it's just tough to acknowledge that is very hard. And I think that's another reason people don't come to coaching.
Yep.
But everybody needs help.
Yep.
Right. I have a coach. I have a therapist I talk to about my clients and stuff.
Yep, me too.
But I'm I was one of those guys, right? Why I'd rather just not to know the truth. You know how painful that can get? So painful. And it's so unnecessary, but it's learned behavior. It's feeling so stuck, Steve and Mark, that there is no help, right? And that is a vicious place to be. I will say this much. I always say, people say, am I going to see results? I say, I have no fucking idea. I said, but I will tell you this much. Things will change, right? The byproduct could be the cash. But if we don't change your behavior in the face of emotions, because behavior changes before feelings, the cost of not coaching will be detrimental.
Yeah, Steve Cohen has a coach and no one else goes, maybe I should have a coach. Steve Cohen has a coach.
I know, Tiger's got one.
Yeah.
I don't know, some of the best people I know got coaches. Why?
Ray Dalio's had coaches all his life.
Yeah.
You know, what's his name?
But I will say this much, Steve and
yeah.
Mark. Maybe it's Simone Biles. Maybe it's all these Olympians and professional athletes. Even Tom Brady said he sees a therapist. There is a movement of this holistic movement of holistic wealth where maybe COVID started this, but it was percolating, that people are really starting to emphasize the importance of their mental capital, the importance of their life, the importance of meaning of how they live. I'm seeing that more and more every day in my practice, just based on people reaching out to me. And I think it is absolutely marvelous. People understand that, wait a second, that Porsche felt good for about 14 minutes, but doing what I say I want to do and my self-worth as an individual and working through certain things is far more valuable than a Carrera. And I'm seeing that more and more every day. And I couldn't be more elated. It's true. We have to be our best friends. We have to be our best advocates. We have to be the ones that are number one priority. That's why trading is the greatest self-development game in the world. And it doesn't happen in the 16th book in chapter 16 in the first line. There is no fucking holy grail. It really is this self-awareness, self-regulation, understanding that we can improve. We've never got it. And that's the journey.
Yeah, it's ironic to think that there are people out there having panic attacks because someone said that they need a coach. You know? And this whole idea that either going through their head, they don't think I'm good enough. You know, it's sort of, you tell that to Tiger Woods, you know, what? I mean, it's like, I think there perhaps is a certain level of people at a performance level where it's expected and accepted. Maybe it's because that there's meant to be a bunch of people that are also rams, you know, and I guess there, but they, you know, they guess mediocre performance, and that's their happy space, right? And they just think, I'm okay being here in this sort of slightly underperforming space. I'm comfortable with that because I know if I go slightly more, that's more effort. I've got the time. Maybe that's more commitment if I want to get there. And I think there needs to be a desire as well behind within people, that fire that says, I'm going that way, and I want to do everything possible to get there and sustain that performance at that level and go higher.
Yeah. You know, Mark, if you want to stay in the middle lane, don't call me.
Yeah, exactly.
Just don't call me.
But
I have no interest.
I think that against happy doing 55 mile an hour in the middle lane, driving a Volvo. Right? Apologies for any Volvo drivers.
If you want to discover, get a little uncomfortable, and see what your capability gap is, give me a ring.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm as committed as you are to this game.
Yeah,
let's go to work. Yeah,
so I think there's an intention required as well.
Yeah, if you wanted to play driving Miss Daisy, go ahead. That's your practice. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
enjoy it if that's what you want to do. But if you don't, and you have a desire to get better and are committed to it, there's 3 guys on this call willing to help.
Yeah. In a nutshell.
But that's the whole thing. Like it's got to be something that you want to do, right? But it's also, sometimes we don't feel like we deserve it. If there is an inkling of a commitment of I want to get better, there are resistances that kind of hold us back that you got to work through a little bit. But if you have that inkling of I know there's more, right? Because we've never got it. I need help. Get it. The other side is gorgeous.
Just as you were talking there, you've been talking on this theme for so long now. My mind went back to my first conversation with the client who for me embodies the very best in trading that I've worked with. So I kind of have I work with many great clients, but there's a handful of people, I could probably, maybe on 2 hands, I'd say really are exceptional. And they come from different worlds. Some are retail traders, some are working in sell-side market making roles, some in prop firms, and some are buy-side guys. So they're spread across the various disciplines of trading. But the one who stands out, and he's a veteran trader, 30 years in the industry, somewhat of a legend. And in my first meeting with him, even before I'd started working with him, and he just made inquiries and sort of went and had a preliminary chat. And I asked him, what, again, sort of this idea of seeing so many people in that world hesitating to come to a coach. What moves you to work with me? What was your motivation? And he said, look, all my life, from the moment I was born, all the way through my early years, through education, through many crises, into this job, through the various parts of this job that get you to where you are now, I have always had help. And I've always been willing to seek help. I've had people help me throughout my life. I've had mentors, I can't tell you how many mentors. I think a mentor is the best thing you can have. Everyone who's ever been successful to me has told me about their mentors, and he's saying, I see you again as more help. I'm almost, it's almost a question, why wouldn't I work with you? Was kind of his perspective. And I thought, just why can't more people be like that? But, I answered the question over there myself because, my own ego came in many years ago and thought, I can do this on my own. I don't need help, which was quite the opposite, as it turned out.
I was just going to share a soundbite that I've said several times on many of our podcasts, but I think you'd probably quite like it, where people say, well, why bother? Well, what's going to be the impact for me? And I said, well, you're going to suddenly work out that you've been living in a black and white world of mono sound, kind of like Dorothy pre-tornado. And then suddenly the doors open and it's HDMI, multicolor, Dolby sound surround. And you're going to suddenly realize that you've been living in this dull world where it's difficult to see opportunity. And you're now connecting to this heightened level of consciousness about where you are at any given time. And that is where opportunity lies. And no matter what you do, I mean, it affects all aspects of your life, but that's the transition that can happen if you commit to a coaching journey with a coach. It's just how you see the world changes and how you then can interpret it and manage yourself through it. Because there's going to be lumps and bumps in that journey, but of course, that's what a coach is there for. But that's the opportunity. The opportunity is like, Dorothy post-tornado, bang, where's the boss? And people are going, Jesus, I guess, I wasn't seeing this before. And I think that's, for me, that's a compelling reason that you enter a different world altogether. And I think that's where opportunity lies. I like to think that we're, through coaching, giving people a level of awareness and a level of consciousness about what they do, how they do it, that is so improved from their previous methodology that it almost becomes a shock when I go, I just didn't realize. And I think if you combine that with the performance things that we've been talking about, that leads to an incredible transition about seeing the bigger picture, about seeing, you think you're just looking at the opportunity, but actually you realize there's a much bigger one as well that you should be following the pathway of. And I think that's what coaching unlocks that, I think. It unlocks a different level of consciousness and awareness to you as you exist, wherever you exist. And I think that's, from a human positioning, that's got to be attractive. That is so attractive to get to a different state. And I think you can get to a different state.
Your vision changes. I agree with you. Yeah. And it's the trigger and the reaction, the behavior, that gap in between gets much bigger. And you can see things much better. Where triggers don't last as long, where we make proactive decisions. And time again, that gap in the middle is huge, right? And to be able to make decisions there is tremendous. And I think, Mark, you hit it on the head. It gives you a better view of what you're capable of doing. I mean, I know I've had coaches my whole life, so I can actually say this. I think everybody should have a coach. Because also, I'm not your mother, I'm not your father, I'm not your brother, I'm not your sister. I'm sitting here as an observer, non-judging you. I am in your corner to help, especially navigating the wild world of markets. Why not? If we all know now that the mental side of this game is important, the cost of not working with a coach, investigating how you can get better, I don't understand. It's the cost as opposed to the value, or cost versus price is irrelevant. It's and it's a tough profession. It's challenging. My average life of a client is 5-6 years. We just build, stretch, right? But we always got to remind ourselves of the basics. Self-awareness, acknowledging, tolerating emotions.
We will return to the podcast shortly. First, long-term listeners will know we have a partnership and collaboration with the Society of Technical Analysts, whereby listeners can obtain a discount on the price of their brilliant home study course, which is based off the diploma program which they deliver. We are also delighted to announce a new collaboration. This will be a groundbreaking high-performance trader learning program. This innovative program will concentrate on enhancing trader performance by developing traders' risk-taking abilities, risk processes, and risk capabilities, and providing a robust and comprehensive foundation for successful trading. This learning program is designed to benefit both professional and retail traders. This learning program will be conducted over 10 2-hour live Zoom sessions from March 2025 to June 2025. There will only be limited spots available on a first-come, first-served basis, so we do encourage early registration once registration opens. Further details of this will be shared in due course. If you are interested in getting advance notification of the details, please email us at info@alpha-mind.net and provide us with your name and email address, and we make sure that you will be added to the early notification queue. Now back to the podcast. I want to bring it back to this idea of traders are performance athletes.
Okay.
And you were a performance athlete early in your life, before your trading career, and you worked with performance athletes as well as traders now. Where are the similarities? Where are the overlaps? I gather there are many, but what do you actually physically see when you're working with people in those different fields?
The overlap is a belief system. right? But the belief system that I need to sleep well, I need to eat right, I need to keep myself in good shape because I know it's going to pay off in the end for me. And they take the game seriously. The similarities is this mindset that I have control over certain things I'm in control. That, I don't need sleep. I can eat like shit. I can go boozing. It's all right. The guys who win don't do that. The guys who make a lot of money and the guys who succeed in athletics don't think that way. Their mindsets are different. They're committed, like we were saying earlier in this show. They're not interested, committed to this, right? So when you expect to do well and you're not doing everything that it takes to do well, there's something wrong there. There's something wrong. You're lying to yourself because you're not doing it. Now, why am I not doing it all? That's a great question, right? And that's worth exploring. But for people who are committed at this, and my clients are, they're not perfect, right? We'll have a step back, but we know we're getting off the next exit. We recommit and we go again, right? But it's not an obsession, but it's gotta be this consistency with mindset. It has to be consistency with behavior. It has to be consistency with routine. This is not an easy game, but it is winnable. And it's winnable if you treat it on a performance level.
So there's people who treat this as a vocation, as a job. And then there's people who treat
slash hobby, right?
Slash hobby. And then there's people who treat this as if, they're an athlete, they're an Olympian. I think the title of our, or at least the thing that was brought up in our recent podcast with Kim Ann, was traders as Olympians. Like you say, they are treating it like that. I'm going to win this game. I'm going to win this game in the short term. I'm going to win this game really in the long term as well.
Yeah.
I'm not here for a one-off. I'm here for the long haul. For a lot of people, for them it's a lottery ticket. And I think those people who just take that lottery ticket attitude to it, they're not making it. None of them are making it.
Their careers are not very long.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Right. Their duration is minimal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And because it's such a fascinating career.
Yeah.
But you have to, Steve, you said you have to treat it like an Olympian. You have to treat it like you're going on the pitch at Arsenal.
Yeah.
Right. It's all these. Where in the world are you making 7,000 decisions so quick? Where in the world are you feeling every emotion under the sun before 9:45? Yeah. You're telling me that if you're not fit, if you're not mentally sharp and all these things, you're going to have a chance? No way. And if you do, we'll all sit at the table with you.
I remember a time I went into the trading room, and this was actually during my trading years when I was doing really well, where I came in one day and shit was happening already as I walked in. And I had big positions on, I had a lot of exposure. And I just sat in my chair like that, frozen with the chair at an angle, just watching the market and thinking what I should do for about 4 hours, just trying to make sense of all this. And I was in the wrong position. And I got a bad back from that. And then that bad back became the source of the stress because I had this great pain running through me for days that just made it impossible for me to focus on what I needed to do. And I mean, that's just for me a small cameo of being unprepared, of not walking in, getting there early, actually got there a bit late, getting myself comfortable, getting myself set up, then looking at the market. Just doing a little thing that probably took 20 seconds. But, everything went wrong. I was out of line. I had to see physios. It's not just walking on the pitch unprepared.
It's really a physio, like you said, like standing up, opening up your lungs, right? Yeah. We know, like shoulders hunch, it's fight or flight. Open up your chest. All my people, stand up, get air, open up your chest, lengthen your spine, breathe, move your nervous system from sympathetic to parasympathetic. Be aware of what's going on. This doesn't take 7 hours, by the way.
Yeah.
This is a minute. But does it have a massive impact on your decision making? Absolutely. We just got to remember to do it. But through repetition becomes a part of how we operate. Talking to ourselves. What does this mean to me? How am I feeling right now? My assistant would laugh. We'd say it how you feel? I said, I'm very nervous. He's like, you're nervous every day. I said, I'm allowed to be nervous. He goes, but you don't act nervous. I said, I don't act nervous. But I'm acknowledging what's going on within. So I don't act nervous because I know what nervous feels like. And I know I've now practiced time and time again that a behavior that goes with that nervousness, because it means something to me. And my experience is completely different with that similar feeling. But you're right, Steve. How am I sitting? Like how am I breathing? And this goes back to performance, to perform like an Olympian or train like an Olympian or whatever the title may be. It's the same thing. Your diaphragm's crunched, everything's crunched. How you open up? It all counts.
Mark, you're a big believer in getting out into nature and just sort of reconnecting with the natural world.
Yeah, I think the whole point of remembering to walk away from your screen and get out, right? Rather than 12 hours a day crunched over it, praying you're going to make some money and you're not, and hoping the next trade is going to be the biggest trade. I think we're finite as individuals. We're finite and we're fragile. That's our starting point. Okay, so we need to work on that. So we need to work on de-stressing. We need to work on taking ourselves out for a walk and just being on the walk. We need to know where our consciousness goes and notice that we might be on the walk and thinking about the day ahead and how we're going to trade the day ahead, and checking on ourselves. I think, well, I guess need to be where I am. Tuning into your senses rather than tuning into your thoughts is one of our sort of mantras. But it's where we get this power of our cognitive ability from. We preserve our mental capital by doing those things, the softer things. The time with the family, the discussions that you have with buddies that are not about the market is also part of that equation. To just lighten up a little bit and laugh at yourself, be vulnerable. I mean, laugh at an error, rather than be down and crunched up on your diaphragm, breathing low, breathing slow, depressed. We know what depression looks like. If you see someone hunched shoulders, looking at the floor with a low voice, with eyes that are not paying attention to you, you're going to say they're depressed, right? Someone walking around that's tall, that's got a clear voice, that's got eyes that are paying attention, you'd say they're positive. So we can see what positive and negative look like. But also, just going back to Steve's point, we need to use these environments that we all sit within and get out and connect to them. To connect with what a good breath is. This thing needs oxygen. And if you're stuck in a room all day where you've not got particularly fresh air, you might have aircon there, that's not optimal, really. I remember we used to get an oxygen reading in trading rooms post-lunch, and oxygen levels were dropping because of the fact that everyone had lunch, their metabolisms are fired up, they're eating air, and pushing out carbon dioxide, and oxygen levels were falling. And some of the big trading rooms are paying attention to those types of things. So open some windows, get out, get natural daylight, circadian rhythms and all of that to get to connect with where you are, whatever latitude you're at, because it changes. Those simple things that's where performance lies. Paying attention to the stuff that you think just ordinary, as well as to the discipline of trading. Trading's heavy, right? I mean, it's heavy stuff, and even the best of traders have difficult times, and I think the very, very best that are getting through it and getting to retirement and getting to flourish in the space are paying attention to the stuff that's not necessarily trading, but it's where they get their energy from. Because trading needs energy, so you need to fuel yourself.
Yeah. To down-regulate.
Yeah.
To understand what dopamine is. It's interesting, Mark. We had a quiet room in my office, sealed, right? And we realized the guys who were taking naps, I'm a big nap guy, who took naps around 12:31, who used the gym, made more money than everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we know, guys are coming to work at 5, but 12 o'clock, you're toast. So do you really think the productivity level is going to get better? No. Go outside, get a little sun. Right? Because the cost of not doing that is tremendous. Because day stack, week stack, month stack. Right? And that chronic stress, it happened to me, will get you. And there's a way, you're not going to miss a trade for 2 minutes. And if you do, so be it. Get some air. Go in nature. Leave your phone at home. Just be with yourself for a little bit. Have a laugh. It's good for the soul, right? It's good for performance. Because when we're so tight, when we're so rigid, we lose the essence of fluidity. And fluidity is so important in this game. When we're fluid within a structure of how we want to operate, that's a great place to be. And how do we get to fluidity? Mark, what you just said. All these things are not inconsequential. They all help and are an integral part, an integral ingredient to performance. I couldn't agree with you more. I'm about to literally take after this podcast. I'm going to take a nice little walk with my dog, Gigi. Gonna have a little stroll, no phone, and just chill.
Yeah, Lily's going to go for her walk in a minute as well. It's true, right? I mean, I think that one of the interesting things about the city is that I think particularly with traders is that you get to the end of the year about November, and a lot of traders have still got like 3 weeks annual leave left that they got to take between, because they just don't take leave. Some people are scared to ask for leave, saying that I'm going to be missed. It's going to be so damn busy. I'm too important to step away. That's where you start getting personal disasters. And it is very, very common that you get a whole bunch of traders scrambling to get annual leave in, until they lose it at the end of January, where time is your biggest. I know we talk about mental capital and capital things, but in terms of asset, time is your biggest asset. Yeah, not money. Time is your biggest asset. But,
So true.
And to have a strategy to create time.
Well, you create time by slowing down.
Yeah, by slowing down and by understanding what's important in life and what isn't important and not so important, and spending time on the important stuff, and that includes family first. So whatever, managing self, managing family, managing probably has to always be there, in my view. That has to be something that's sort of, don't forget about that. There's a lot of traders out there where trading takes over their entire life and they forget about family.
It's so important you said that, because I ran a trading business. I traded for a living, but I was way more than that. As a father, brother, all these things. So my identity, I realized, and this took time, that this is what I do for a living. It's not who I am entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And that was big. That was a huge hurdle for me. And when I got over that, it really, and Mark, goes back to what you were saying earlier. And a coach helped me do this. It changed my vision. Right? I was able to compartmentalize Evan a trader, Evan a dad, Evan a husband. It was big for me. I coach for a living. I'm not a coach. This is what I do for a living. I love it. But there's so many things that I want to do with my life that if I wrap up my identity in one thing and put too much value into it, for me personally, it weighs on me too much, and it's not healthy for me. And I had to learn that, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, this the need for balance, I think, is so critical, even more critical if you're dealing in this performance arena. Be you a sports person, be you a military fighter pilot, be you a trader. You got to remember balance. I remember when Joel and Michelle Levy were doing some work for the Pentagon around sort of mindfulness and compassionate mindfulness with some essentially special forces guys. When they following that work, they were getting thank you letters from the children they were getting thank you letters for getting their father back home. Now the father was back home already physically, but what they meant was that mentally the father was engaging with them as children rather than being physically there and still being on the battlefield. And so he was, just blank really to the kids. So they were getting thank you letters from the kids saying, thanks for bringing my dad home.
Well, that's and you're talking in the world of presence, right? Mm-hmm. This, I forgot her. She's out of Harvard. I want to say her last name's Purdy. She wrote a great book about presence. I could be 70-30 business life and do it really well if I'm present in both, right? If I'm present at 30%, I'm good. Like, I don't think that's a bad equation if that's what I choose. But the art of presence, right? It's a utility game. I have 100 units of presence a day. How am I using it? When I go take a walk with G in about 5-10 minutes, I don't have to be that present. When I'm with clients, I need to be present. If I was trading, I need to be present. To be able to pick your spots and be present. And going what you said, Mark, obviously, I think being a warrior is a little bit different in the traumas that people face. So I'm not minimizing any of that. Mm-hmm. But the art of presence is an incredible topic. Like my coaching revolves around that as well. Like when do I need to be present and when don't I? If there is fact that it's a depleting asset. So how do I use it? And plus, where do I want to be present? It's fascinating. This whole thing is fascinating. I love this thing.
Yeah. Because
we can go on for hours and hours, gentlemen. Yeah, it's really
we could do, but I think we have to bring it to an end. Shame. Just for listeners here, I mean, I'm sure and I hope you've got a lot from this. I'm sure you will have. And we've added on the show notes. You can always find contact details for our guest, and Evan's contact details will be there on the show notes. Evan, as I'm thinking about this, and I've got the title ready for this podcast, which I think is going to be "Traders Are Performance Athletes" with Evan Marks. Okay,
I love it.
And normally, or sometimes, I start the podcast when we edit it. We put some expert excerpts, 3 or 4 excerpts that take about a minute collectively of what's coming up. I don't know. I mean, there could be an entire podcast of excerpts from this one, from the things you've said. It's been excellent. It really has. And I do hope you, the audience listening, have got something from that. And if you have, fire something back to us on social media, Twitter or LinkedIn, just to say, what you got from this, because that's always great for us to hear. Some people do that often. But listen, I don't know, Mark, can I just hand it back to you to bring this to a close?
Yeah, I can be pretty succinct about that. Take the game seriously, people. There's more to it than just the trading bit. There's this whole human stuff that we've shared. And the big message that I'll now leave you with is hit rewind and listen to this again. Listen to the whole episode again and listen to it again. Because this is what you're meant to do. This is how you're going to survive this journey and make the most of this journey as a trader, by paying attention to, the preservation of your mental capital and development of your mental game. Full stop. So, Evan, thanks for joining us for this chat that could have lasted forever, and no doubt we'll turn into another episode. But we're all on the same page, and the people out there, we're coaches. We want markets experience. Contact us.
Right. And remember, this is it should be a rewarding experience, not a punishment, this game of trading. Right. So having the right mindset going in about that is huge.
Yeah.
Right. It's such a great avenue of growth. And like you said just now, Mark, It's just not trading related. It's not just about the leaf. It's about the rooting system. It's about the whole tree. And that's how you become top of the game. And it was a pleasure being on this podcast with you, gentlemen. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It was terrific. Like you guys said, this could have lasted a lot longer.
It was a pleasure having you. It really was. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening today. Again, thank you to our podcast partner, the Society of Technical Analysts. Do check out the offer with regard to their brilliant home study course. If you are interested in understanding more about yourself as a trader, do check out my new book, Mastering the Mental Game of Trading. In the meantime, we wish you the very best of luck and look forward to you joining future episodes of the Alpha Mind podcast. Goodbye.